Welcome back to another Epidose of these crazy fools are just eating lots of meat and can't shut up about it. My name is Tom, and today I got my usual suspect Justin with me, and our special guest Niti, was a pal of mine that I met on the online meetings, and we've kept in touch, and we decided we'd have her on because she's sort of an expert in animals and which animals are tastiest and healthiest to eat. So she's here to tell us a little bit about that. She's got a book, she's got a website, and she's a fountain of information. So take it away, Nee. Tell us what you're working on these days.
Well, I'm having a lot of fun with you guys. That's
Mm,
for sure. I'm really
we are
appreciative.
fun guys.
I'm really appreciative to have been able to meet you guys, and for all of us to be able to talk pretty regularly. So that's cool. Making lots of new friends, meat eating friends. So that's a lot of fun. And I am working. I just redid my website.
Hmm.
I'm pretty excited about that. And
And your website's called farmtoforkmeatriot.org. I'll remember to put that in the show notes for you so people can click on it.
cool. Yeah, and I just did the Rogue Food Conference starting this year off. So that was fun. And I feel like you know, I'm teaching people about meat, honoring it, appreciating it, but also the rogue food movement, which is part of regenerative ag that I think a lot of people don't know about. And I'm working as the catalyst to reestablish the small family farm food system.
Hmm.
And
And that's from roadfood.com? No.
Rogue, like
Oh,
ROGUE.
Rogue. Okay, gotcha. I'm looking it up. So I'll try and put that in the show notes as well.
Thank you. Yeah, Rogue Food Conference. Um, I think that's the only way that you might find that Rogue Food Conference.
Came right up when I typed in Rogue.
Oh, cool. So shout out to all the ranchers out there who are, fighting for food freedom. That's what the Rogue Food Conference was about. And I think that a lot of eaters don't, I mean, at least when I talk to eaters, they don't know why that is something that needs to be, like, why are we fighting for food freedom? What is that about? And I think a lot of folks have no idea how many of your civil liberties are being violated every day, or that our food system has been poisoned. People don't know. And oh, I'm sorry, I'm a conspiracy theorist also, maybe.
Mm. It's a badge of honor now. I mean, what do you
Yeah.
say?
I think that the CIA was didn't think too long. I mean, I don't understand how they I guess I don't understand that we're all on the fringe, I think. Anybody who is willing to just go all meat is on the fringe, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But um
I don't have any doubt that a lot of people think that way about us when they first hear about it because it doesn't make sense based on everything we've been told, you know.
why
But
is it
once you,
okay to eat all vegetables though, Tom?
yeah, I don't know. It's unnatural is what that is. But we've been convinced that it's the natural thing to do, right? All these fruits and vegetables are natural and they're healthy, and you should eat a mostly plant-based diet. To us it sounds completely ridiculous at this point, but when you inundated with that message all the time for the time you're little until you grow up, it just the message gets stronger and stronger and stronger. Then your reality becomes what you've been told the most, right? Because few
Well, your
people have,
beliefs are just thoughts that you keep
yeah.
thinking. Yeah. So when people are just made to think the same thought over and over and over again, then but you can change your mind
Hmm.
anytime.
I like to say that veganism is just one group of people trying to make their feelings somebody else's ethics. You know, that's what I like to say because that's the way I view it. It's like, and they've had a strong signal for a long time. They've been out putting that message out for a long time, about cruelty and it's not healthy for you. And and on and on and on. And how are people to know any different? Most people don't have any way of knowing any different, right?
Well, you could just see how you feel, like, but they're not allowed to feel their own way because they're only allowed to feel what they've been told to be able to feel.
Right.
I remember as a young child, and if the, vegetables and grains and breads, they used to make my stomach hurt. And but they can't be making your stomach hurt. That's good for you. What are you talking about? It's something else,
Right.
And so
you just need more fiber.
I was being, it was like they were trying to talk me into agreeing that I wasn't feeling bad, and I find that a lot of children are talked into believing that their pain isn't real or whatever. And, that's just crazy.
Being sick is normalized. Yeah.
It is. It's normalized.
And it's totally gaslighting, anyone like you, that's totally gaslighting you, denying your experience, and in the vegan community, because I've spent a lot of time in the vegan community before, and it is a cutthroat community. It's like you're either on 100% or you're outcasted. Some try to be a little more friendly, but there's just a bunch of, I don't know, unrealities that come with that. And I really like your approach, Niti, because you're about, let's follow the rules of nature. Nature's set up a certain way. We evolved, millions of years in nature. We're not separate from it. We are animals. It's just, we have cognitive abilities that allowed us.
Animal. I'm offended. I only identify as what? I don't understand. I think it's funny when they say, I identify as a green tree or whatever it is that they're saying.
Right. Yeah. And so it's like, it's okay for a lion to hunt the zebra and eat the zebra, but it's not okay for us we're the most humane carnivores on the planet. We don't even go after the young often.
Why are you calling it? I don't understand why they call this stuff humane. They don't even offer humane. They don't even honor people. I mean, first of all, okay, so let's get back to rogue food for just a second. Yeah. So when you're talking about the rogue food piece or the food, I mean, yes, okay. Gosh, I have so much to say right now. Let me stop.
And there, when you talk about rogue food, you deal with other regenerative ag people that our audience might have already heard of, right?
Yeah, like I think a lot of people might know of like White Oak Pasture is a regenerative hub for savory, and
Alan Savory.
Yeah, for Alan Savory, and then like Joel Salatin's Polyface Farm, and well, there's so many regenerative farms that people just don't even know about. Regenerative basically means that the animals are massaging the soil. They're out in the sunshine with their feet on the soil. They're eating pasture in addition to maybe some feed or maybe not some feed. So a lot of people think that only herbivores like cows are regenerative. But that's not true because we're raising regenerative hogs and ducks and lamb and chickens and
all the tasty animals.
The yummy, delicious. So regenerative does require livestock. So what was happening was everybody was trying, like the vegans are trying to sell the sustainability idea. But what they don't understand is that nature is regenerative. It's a circle. It's a regenerating circle. So even in death, you offer more life sometimes even than in your life, in your living, because you're a consumer when you're alive. When you're dead, you offer life force in ways that you couldn't even do when you were alive. So, I mean, I guess they're trying to just die because they need to be dead to really be able to feed the regenerative circle. I mean, if you want to talk about what a vegan movement looks like to nature, is that they just want to die so they can hurry up and become the fertilizer or whatever to contribute. And because they'll give more life force in that way. If they really want to give their life up for this other life, then that is how you would do it. And I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of hate hate toxic, but
And they probably all want to be planted under a tree, and none of them are going to volunteer to be planted under a corn crop or something like that, because it's just not cool enough.
the monoculture, you don't want to support the mono, or what about the soybean culture that monocrop of soys that nobody even was eating soy like that? Who was doing that? When was that happening?
It wasn't happening until the Seventh-day Adventists decided it needed to be an industrial crop.
And I mean, that was less than 100 years ago, people.
Yeah.
So, that wasn't really that long ago, and it's not normal, and it's not what's supposed to have been our diet. And, I mean, but back to the regenerative piece of it, if you don't have any animals that are massaging the earth, that are, defecating on the land, that is inoculating the soil, which would give the life force for a plant, how do you intend to do that? And so most vegans I know aren't eating real food. They're not eating something that's real. They're eating some chemistry project out of a lab.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're living creatures that are, how do they expect that to work? Like, how is that possible?
Yeah, and I think people, they've gone down this trail where they think, oh, animal protein isn't healthy for you. Animals are ruining the environment. And then somehow they're led to believe that soy protein is a adequate substitute.
Do they have boots on the ground to go see how the animals are ruining the environment? Because I don't believe that. If they would go outside and actually meet an animal, meet a creature, like, I'm working on these farms all the time with my boots on the ground. And if you have your boots on the ground and you actually are, not just sitting in this room. I don't have a lot of YouTube and other information because I've been busy for the past decade with boots on the ground. And then I was told I need to learn how to do media. And I'm like, well, I tried to do it and I kind of suck at it. So I'm trying to do better. And so.
Well, I'd like to speak to what you said about the animals massaging the soil. I mean, if we understand that there used to be millions of bison roaming around the United States before people decided to try and exterminate them, here in California, water is a big issue. Part of the reason why we need more water is because we have to grow all these stupid almonds for almond milk and stuff like that. But if we had more animals on the lands, more water would get through the soil. The soil would be alive, especially soil that's been row cropped and destroyed. Or
they want to do permaculture in the wrong way, and they don't understand permaculture.
Yeah, it gets desertified, and so we could undo that, get more soil, more rain to pass through the soil. We could sequester carbon from the atmosphere in the form of, like prairie grass roots. We could have
you can't do that, Tom. Only the animals can do that. Did you know that?
We need them. We need the animals back on the land. And I'm really pulling for a resurgence of woolly mammoth myself, but I'd be happy with some buffalo.
Yeah. Well, they have buffalo that they're farm raising, but you can't, if you've ever tried to fence in a buffalo, and I've watched this happen, and they're trying to, like for Ted's, they were trying to, grow farm raised buffalo, and that was a horrible idea. And I know that the Teds around here all went out of business. Like, I don't know if they've actually all gone out of business or whatever, but how they're raising this bison, I'm not really sure of, because they break fences everywhere. Like, they will crush the fences, and they're destroying the fencing,
Hence the term getting buffaloed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Niti, back to rogue food. What is rogue food?
So rogue food, the food freedom that we're talking about is unadulterated food, meaning like literally just like raw milk. It's illegal in most of the country. And why? Why is it illegal? Why would you take something
It's so dangerous.
It's so dangerous.
So dangerous.
It's so dangerous.
So edgy.
People are terrified of milk.
Yeah.
I find this, it's just really laughable when you start thinking about the media mob ruling these, ridiculous social agendas that they put, like this coronavirus thing. by the way, coronavirus is something that was like a natural strain that people have known about forever. It's always been around. It's nothing new. They just decided to make it this big thing all of a sudden. I'm sure they're going to be trying to vaccinate for it in about 5 seconds because, you know, that's always a solution. Yeah, I don't believe, you know, by the way, vaccination is not immunization. The only way to strengthen your immunity is not to violate your sacred bloodstream, but to eat something that your body knows what it can be.
So what was your experience when you shifted to a meat-based diet, as far as, you know, being healthy, and how often have you been sick since you switched?
So our journey started it was probably 12 years ago now. Well, okay, no, Mina was diagnosed in 2007. My story starts with our daughter being diagnosed with cancer, us trying to figure out what to do about it, how to fix it. And at the time I wouldn't have known anything about even keto. You know, there was no YouTube. This is 2007. If there was YouTube, I could not have known about it.
Yeah, it was nothing like this for sure for a long time in the beginning.
I mean, the iPhone didn't even come out until 2009, I think.
Sounds about right.
And I thought YouTube started then too, but maybe I'm
could be.
I should do my Google search to find out. But like, when my daughter was diagnosed, then we couldn't Google anything. Maybe somebody could Google something somewhere, but I was not in a position to do that. I was a stay-at-home mom. I had been in the workforce for, you know, a decade. And when my husband and I met, we were much older. And so it was our priority to raise a family. And so I said, you know, if I'm working in my industry, which was in sales, and I was a professional closer, I used to train people, and I would travel. I said, that is going to require me to be on the road all the time. So why are we even getting married at that point? You know, I'll be gone like all the time. And so we chose quality of life, and we chose family. And so we decided that we would live on one income. And I'm saying all of that because a lot of times people are not even making any of those kind of decisions. That was kind of a big deal for our generation. You know, a lot of people were like, oh my God, you're just going to be like a stay-at-home mom. Like, you don't say that out loud. You don't want anybody to do it.
It's very difficult to do in a lot of areas. You know, you require a dual income just to get by.
Unless you just minimalize. So, you know, we were just decided to minimalize. We were like, we're not going to be going on big vacations and this and that all the time. And, you know, I have my whole single life to do that. I traveled and I did all kinds of stuff. And, you know, I was like, you know, I would rather have kids and have a family. So, and my husband felt the same way. So we decided that we were only going to do whatever we could afford to do on one income. And then the good news with that is if something happens with him, I can be a backup. I can start working. I mean, you know, something can happen. But our lifestyle was based around the one income. And then I was making money. I was working too. We just didn't use that to qualify for anything, or we never considered that second income when we would make decisions about stuff. We only ever just did everything off of one. And maybe that's too much information, but for us at the time, I'm glad we did it. We bought our house that way. We did everything based around the fact that there's only ever going to be one income. And so if there is a second income, it's just bonus. And we can use it to, you know, to have a vacation or to invest in the kids or for whatever. And so it's a good thing we kind of had this plan because we got married within a year. I was pregnant the first time. We had our son. He's amazing, miracle, wonderful. And then, you know, within months we were pregnant again because we thought we were going to have problems getting pregnant. We were not having any problems getting pregnant. And then
Surprise.
Surprise! And we were just like, oh, this, like, once you turn it on, it's on, I guess. Yeah. And so, so then we had Meenakshi, and then we were trying to figure out what are we doing? And I was I was home with these two babies, and I felt like I mean, my time was not my own. I thought I was tired before I had kids. I did not know what I was talking about. And now I'm like going bananas because I have 2 babies who need me all the time. And so I think I find a lot of mothers fall into this anxiety thing. And I wish I would have known all that I knew about meat at that time, because I needed it.
Yeah.
But we never cut meat out of our lives. We always had meat in our diet on a regular basis. But then Mina got sick. 2007, she couldn't breathe. Her face is swelling up. And she's literally being suffocated from the inside out. We're at the hospital because she cannot breathe through her nose. She can only breathe through her mouth. And we're like, what is going on? And then her head starts swelling. And we go to the doctor, and the doctor is like, I think you should go have a CT scan done. And we don't think this is any kind of big deal because we don't know any better, because she's only 2. So we go to the doctor, they do a CT scan, and her entire head is full of tumor. And it has eaten up her entire sphenoid bone, which is the rock bone that sits here under the dura. Your brain like rests on this bone. And then that bone opens up into the sinus cavity, and it becomes your sinuses. And so children, their heads are very heavy because of this rock bone, as they refer to it. And that sphenoid bone makes their head very heavy, which is why they're clumsy until they're like 8 or 10, which then opens up into the sinus cavity. Well, her rock bone is gone. It has been replaced by this tumor. So already she is at a moment that is critical. She's terminal. If you really think about it now, like at that moment, I couldn't understand it. But now she's terminal immediately because she's missing structure that should open up and develop, and it's never going to open up and develop. So upon presentation, she was palliative at best. Do you understand? So people might not know, but palliative at best means she's terminal. She's not going to recover. This is the moment where I firmly believe the doctors should have said, go enjoy your daughter. We'll be here to help with pain management or whatever. But they did not. Instead, they decided to put her at Duke Children's for this chemistry project for them to, I guess they think that we want them to show us that they're doing something to save her. Well, they can't save her because they don't know what they're doing, and they can't have done anything to save her if they couldn't have replaced this sphenoid bone, if you want to be very truthful about what's happening, right?
Right.
But just be honest and just say, we can't fix her. This is what would have to happen for her to be fixed. It's horrible, but also, instead, what they did was they check us into Duke Children's Hospital. They take $3 million of her lifetime maximum of her thing, which, by the way, I want my money back. And then they continue to do what in my book, I talk about the human torture therapy. Because everything they're doing after that is literally human torture therapy. It's unnecessary. When all they really had to do was say, we can't do nothing. We don't know what to do.
This isn't fixable. Yeah.
Right. She's broken and sorry. And we love you, and what can we do to help her pain? That's all they could really say. But they didn't do any of that. And so people say that I had a bad experience. No. I am watching people every single day go into the doctor, and the doctor not be honest with them and tell them what was really wrong with them or how they really could fix something, because they need to find some prescription protocol or some bullshit to sell them, because that's what's required through the, insurance or whatever, drug protocol. I mean, tell me that you don't see this happening all the time, because I swear I see it all the time.
Sure.
It's repeat performance that they want to figure out how to sell you some drugs or medication. I mean, what did they do for her in the first 6 months in Duke Children's that could possibly have cost $3 million? Nothing.
Yeah, it seems incredibly hard to justify for sure.
I mean, I would really like to have a written statement of what it was that each dollar was applied towards, and I want the rest of that money back. That's how I feel about it. but the insurance paid it. And then, so I'm telling you all of this because if you want the details, read the book. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. But I will say that they had no solution. We put her on real food, regenerative food. And when we did, then we killed the cancer. The cancer cells stopped. The tumor itself, we made it necrotic on food alone. When 5 months, no, we lived in Duke from September, Labor Day, to February. What's that? September, October, November, December, January, February. 6 months. 6 months of torture that accomplished nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Accomplished it. I just made up that word. Accomplished it.
No, I love making up words. If you notice, I always use that word epidose.
Yes, I like it. Yeah, I mean, so they were actually not capable of doing anything that resulted in anything positive.
Speculate for me for a minute on what you think happened when you changed your food. You know, why did the cancer start to die and stop growing?
Because we removed all the sugar because we came home. Oh yeah, I'm super pregnant. I go into detail in the book about this, but I'm like super pregnant and I'm like telling my husband we cannot go back there anymore. I can't even take this hospital anymore because all they're doing is torturing her. They're treating her like a pincushion and just killing her.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't know what they're doing because if they did know what they were doing, then she would be getting better, but she's not getting better. Like, what's up? And so nothing, and every time we talk to them, they're like, oh, let's try this. That means they don't know what the hell they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say to them, and I have recordings because now they don't let you record, but at that time, to record all the conversations because, you know, I come from a family of doctors. So we have surgeons, we have holistic physicians, we have Ayurvedic physicians. I mean, you know, my grandfather was a renowned homeopathic physician when he was alive. And so I was consulting with all of his students because he was no longer alive. And his students were 80, 90 years old. I mean, when we were consulting with them. And they were just like, you know, we've never seen this turn around, not with homeopathy, right? But they gave us homeopathic protocols for her to endure chemo, which would, by the way, worked. You know, she didn't lose a single ounce. Nobody goes into chemo and doesn't lose all their weight, and she didn't lose an ounce.
Interesting.
So,
I have heard quite a few people report that, you know, when they go on a ketogenic or even a carnivore diet, that they don't have the same negative side effects from chemotherapy drugs, especially, you know, really harsh ones like Taxol and stuff like that. They seem to experience less wasting, less nausea, less fatigue.
yes.
Sometimes they don't seem to have any at all, which is just amazing. You know, anybody who's been around somebody who's gone through that sees how hard it is on a person, you know.
Well, they're literally pouring gas into your heart directly.
Yeah, they're just putting
sacred bloodstream.
They're putting poison in you and hoping that the poison kills the cancer faster than it kills the rest of you. I mean, that's what chemotherapy is.
It's stupid. It's so dumb that what people don't know is the blood volume. I break that down in the book too. I talk about how her blood volume she was literally given the chemotherapy that she was given, the amount of chemo every single time was like an entire blood transfusion. Can you imagine all like 3/4 of your blood being replaced with a chemical? How is that supposed to be a good idea?
It's horrifying.
Who is this genius that came up with this?
Well, you know where chemotherapy came from was an accident in World War II where these guys were accidentally exposed to mustard, some kind of chemical poison that was being smuggled to the war secretly. You know, it's wartime, so they're secretly transporting these chemical weapons to the front lines, and there's some sort of accident where the ship got blown up or something. All these people got exposed to it, and they started realizing that the effect that this poison that they were going to, you know, kill the other army was actually killing cancer cells, and some of these people were surviving. And that's how it came about, you know, an artifact of war.
Well, did you know that you wouldn't have cancer if they weren't using those same wartime chemicals in your food right now?
Well, I like to look at it from a couple angles. Number one, like we all notice that we don't get sick like we used to. I haven't been sick in over 2 years, which never happened before.
You're carnivore.
Because I'm carnivore, yeah, and so my immune system obviously is working better than it had been the rest of my life.
How do you know that? What's your scientific proof of this?
Yes, because I am just a walking lab rat, and I choose to believe in myself. That's basically it. And so, your immune system plays a role in cancer too, because you could have some sort of defective cells that are replicating. What we talk about oncogene activation or whatever, it doesn't matter. If these cells are growing out of control, your immune system should be able to shut them down, right? So we could just say that our immune system's working better. We're not feeding cancer cells with sugar.
Wait a minute. So are you saying
Mm.
that you are honoring the natural laws?
I'm saying, I sound like a broken record. I think we've been eating meat for at least 3.7 million years, and we weren't eating any plants unless we were desperate. And then we were desperately trying to find plants that wouldn't kill us outright. So, I
It was
think
always a risk, right? Like, oh, I don't know about
yeah.
this.
Hey, Mikey, you try this. Let's see if he
Steve,
throws up. Yeah. Yeah. And I think we're just, biological machines that were, that evolved around eating tasty animals. And I think we primarily ate mammoths and stuff like that, mastodons. And eventually we had to move on to smaller animals as they disappeared. And so when we go back to that and we don't substitute in food and, plant-based foods and chemicals and stuff like that, then our bodies just run better. There's fewer mistakes made. So there's fewer cancer cells. Our immune systems work better. We're not shoveling a bunch of sugar in there.
If you didn't try to eat batteries instead of just meat, that you wouldn't be fine. Who could have known that? How could we have known, Tom?
How could we have known?
So Niti,
Yeah.
so was it after noticing that increasing your daughter's meat intake, and making the cancer go necrotic, that you decided to increase your own meat take, or what happens next? Like, as far as for you and your husband and family and going carnivore or meat-based, what was that process?
So, well, I should start with everybody's not carnivore. They're more keto, I would say, my family. And the way that we fell into it was not even on purpose, because we didn't have no biohacking information for us to have known this. How did we fall into it? Well, we fell into it because I came home from the hospital finally, because we were living there for freaking ever. And when we decided to leave, by the way, the doctors were like, yeah, good luck, because your daughter's never going to meet her brother or sister, because I'm pregnant, right? I mean, that's really nice for you to say that to me, since I'm pregnant. Their sensitivity level was really there, right up there. And so I come home and I'm just going crazy. I'm going nuts in the house going, what is killing my daughter? Because she got this cancer from somewhere, somehow. And she didn't get it just because I firmly believe that, what our lifestyle influences our health and our status. So, I mean, I had been taught that by my homeopathic grandfather forever. And it was the way I was, made to believe that you should keep balance and, all this other stuff, So I was like going, there is something in this house that's killing her. And I don't know what it is. And so I literally that day took everything out from under the bathroom sink, under the kitchen sink, all the food in my house, everything. I literally threw it all away. I mean, I threw it all away. I did not think like, oh, I should donate this. Oh, I should do it. I was like, something is wrong. I don't know what it is. And so when people talk about doing a detox or whatever it is, I mean, I literally cleaned my whole house out. And I didn't know that this is before I knew anything about parabens and whatever. I don't know the science reason for it. I only just know that there is some poison in this house. I got to get rid of it. And then I decided I would go to the farmer's market and I'm not going to buy food from anybody. We're not going to eat anything if I don't know where it came from and how it was raised, because I don't trust anything or anybody anymore. That's just how I felt. And I wasn't in a position to just raise some creatures out here in my house. And I don't know how to hunt anywhere or whatever. I mean, I just didn't know how I was going to do that, right? So I start going to the farmer's market. And I try to ask a bunch of questions like, is this sprayed? I wasn't looking for organic. I was looking for chemicals. Like, what do you do on your land? And so I never went looking for anything organic. I went looking for every step of what they had to do. And I don't even know what I'm talking about. I just am asking questions and saying, if I can't visit your land to see where you are raising these things, then I don't want to buy it, because I'm just basically at the grocery store at that point, right? So I started visiting farms. And what was funny, or what you guys might all find interesting, is every farm did not let me come to their land.
Mm.
And some did and some didn't. So what is that? Oh, I don't know. So then I started to get to know a lot of the growers. And as I start to get to know them, I mean, they are very not trusting of me. You know, they don't trust anybody. And, you know, they're very weary of what's going on. But they're also very wanting to help, but also not really trying to get involved, you know, because it's a litigious society that we've created out here. And when you're operating in this litigious society, then everybody has to worry about it, which is the reason for the rogue food piece. We'll just keep coming back to that. But like, if you've created this litigious society, which has been manipulated by mob rule, which is fake media, then it's a very manipulated society that isn't critically thinking for themselves. And I am, right? I'm out there. I'm putting my boots on the ground, and it's very weird and unusual and scary for these poor farm guys, right? So I'm like, look, my daughter's got cancer. I got to figure this out. And so one person sends me to another person, sends me to another person. I get further and further away from the farmer's market. And the further I get away from the farmer's market, the more I realize, oh, these guys can't even be in market, because their food, I mean, it's rogue food, but I don't know that that's called rogue food. I don't know what is going on, but it's unadulterated food. They're not meeting the standards that of the USDA and the FDA and over here, the NCDA. Well, what does that mean? Well, you know, they'd have to, if you're processing chickens on your land, you know, you're limited to how many birds you can process. There's all these rules and whatever. But if you're not counting them, if you're processing them and you're not selling them at a market, then nobody's counting how many birds you're doing, right? So you're not in any kind of agreement with any of the does. So basically, you're operating in a rogue situation just by yourself. Well, if I come to your house and I want some of your meat, you know, you're scared to sell it to me because it's a litigious society. And if I feel like I get sick, or I just believe that you gave me some bad meat because I don't know enough to know better. I mean, I had to befriend the farmers. They had to trust me enough to know that I'm not going to try to come after them, that I just want food that is raised in ways that I can know how it was raised, that it wasn't washed and bleached. You know, they bleach all the eggs. They have to like literally wash them in bleach to meet health code. That's a federal health standard. Who in the world wants to eat eggs that have been washed in bleach? Eggs are permeable, so that bleach goes in the egg. So now any egg that you buy at a farmer's market, which is a centralized food system, it's a centralized food distribution location established by the government for you to have ease and flow, like easily get farm fresh stuff. Well, the farmer has to wash that in, a solution of bleach and water.
You know what's interesting is there's a farmer's market very close to where I work. I mean, very close. I've never seen any meat there.
Right. So most of them never had the meat there, because for them to have the meat there, they have to go through 2,500 hoops and inspections and all this crap. So if you're going to want to give somebody clean meat, then you have to be rogue. And that means that you have to be able to trust this litigious society. And so you have to be a brave farmer or a rancher to want to do that.
I kind of thought about asking around. You know, it's like trying to buy illicit drugs or something. It's like,
it is.
Do you know anybody who's got any clean meat? I need a good ribeye, grass-fed ribeye. Got any?
I kind of just want to take a minute and I'm kind of blown away of how removed from food that we are, that it's weird for a person to walk around a farm and ask questions about the food that they're eating, the product that farmer's producing. And, you know, people think, I understand the whole grocery store and stuff like that. And everyone kind of realizes that's removed from nature. But it's like, people don't realize, A, how removed, because I didn't even know until you just went through this whole thing. And B, like, people think returning to nature is going to the farmer's market, but that's not even that's still 10, 20, 30 steps away from going back to nature or back to the farm, So I'm just completely mind blown. And thank you for that journey, because if you hadn't done it, I don't know who would have, honestly.
I mean, when you're a parent who's fighting for your child's life, you're going to want to go to the edge of the earth to try to figure it out. And at the time, I mean, you don't want to ever just be like, okay, I give up on you because, your structure's gone. And, I mean, yes, there's these logical pieces that I'm conscious of that, okay, how is she going to live like this? That's what I was thinking. But also, I'm not going to really think that. And oh my God, how could I really think that? Because I should be trying to save her life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's easy for me to talk about it now that it's over. But at the time, no way I would ever mentioned even the slightest bit of, or I guess I would have never had an iota of like, oh, she's not going to make it, or I'm not going to do anything that could maybe change the fact that she maybe could make it. I might be able to keep her here longer. I mean, I did extend her life for an entire year because they thought she should die within 24 hours, by the way. Just by the way, once she presented, they've never seen anybody that presents that way. Yeah, that she was stage 4, like beyond stage 4. I mean, her whole head is full of this life. And she lived for almost 2 years past that.
Wow.
Doesn't happen.
So let me circle you back to your book. When I got your book coming, what am I going to find inside?
So the first third of it is about this experience with Mina in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And, I kind of just wanted everybody to know, like, we're just regular parents who just want our kids to have a really good life, who, I told you we gave up our, extra income to raise a family because that was just our priority, and we were going to, make it work somehow. And whatever little bit of work I could do on the side or whatever, that was what was going to help, supplement. And so I ironed that out in the book a little bit for everybody to know, like, we were just eating at the store, and I mean, maybe I wasn't eating McDonald's because I just never thought McDonald's was a great idea. But, a lot of people don't eat at McDonald's. That doesn't really mean that you're the healthiest person ever.
Or they eat there very rarely,
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't going to not eat some McDonald's French fries while we're on the road if we were hungry.
Yeah.
Back then. Whereas today, I wouldn't drive through McDonald's drive-through for any reason whatsoever. But back then, it wouldn't have been a big thing for me to just say, oh, we'll just go through and get some French fries. Because, we're out shopping. We just need a quick snack or something. Mm-hmm. But, like, now I would never even conceive of doing that. And for years, I haven't done it. I mean, once I followed, look, if you find your way back to this farm that I'm talking about, and they're telling me, finally, they're like, look, we can't go to the market. We can't be in the market unless we do this. What? Can I just buy the food from you here? Yes, but it's a final sale only. Like, all sales are final. Do not come back, or whatever. And these are farmers that have fences and gates with signs like, no trespassing. And, it's kind of a scary place. But when you get inside, it's like the Garden of Eden. It's amazing. And it's unbelievable how the well-being is everywhere and it's thriving. And you're just like, man, this is amazing, And you come out and everything's like the concrete death. And then you start eating the meat from there. And so at this point, I'm just basically eating meat and vegetables. So we're keto, not because we're trying to be keto, because we didn't even know what keto was. We were just like, if cavemen didn't eat it, we don't need it. That was our, I have little kids. We had to make up something fun to say.
So no Pop-Tarts?
No.
No Cheetos?
I didn't even have Dawn dishwashing liquid in my house.
How do you get your dishes clean, man?
I know, right? Everybody's like, Dawn's the only one that works.
It's true. It's the only way to get the poison ivy off you, too, believe it or not.
Yeah. So I did discover Frontier Organics, and I ordered. If you order $150 worth, you can get it shipped to you for free, direct. Everything at Frontier Co-op is not clean at all. but I was able to get the organic cleaners for cheaper. And actually at that time, in the very, very beginning, the only thing I could use was Shackley, because I didn't know, there wasn't like an Ecos, the company, I don't think Ecos was out. A lot of these greener companies with cleaner laundry detergents and things like that, I mean, I don't remember them being anywhere, or I couldn't find them. Let's say that. Let's say I couldn't find them, but I knew about Shackley. And I thought Shackley was full of it, but I found out they were really not. And then I learned that their dishwashing detergent actually worked about as good as Dawn. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I never could find a good laundry detergent that I was really satisfied with for the longest time.
The Ecos is actually that laundry detergent's easy for me to find.
Yes.
And like I'd never heard of it until I saw it on the store shelf. So let's try this.
Right. Well, they wasn't even on a store shelf back then. And, you know, we're talking about back when eating gluten-free was like not possible to do. Because you couldn't find anything. So, and I didn't know that I should cut grains out. I just knew I didn't know anybody locally that was growing grains that were clean. So if it weren't clean, I wasn't going to eat it. If I didn't know who was raising it, I wasn't going to eat it. And fruit was eliminated because I found local fruit, but we only had fruit for like 3 months out of the year. So
imagine that. So like it grows in a season, is what you're saying?
Something like that, yeah. So when you start eating fruits and vegetables seasonally, and you find out like chicken, they can't process those birds when it's cold, they can't live. So it's seasonal to do that. And the birds stop laying in the winter, and so it's hard to get eggs. So like I learned real fast how to hold like 15 dozen eggs in my fridge at a time, you know, or whatever. Everybody's like, what's up with you? Your beer fridge has a bunch of eggs in it. I don't know what's going on.
Sacrifice the beer fridge, huh?
Yeah, it was no longer the beer fridge. It was the egg fridge, and it was the raw cheese fridge. It was the fridge to hold all the stuff I could find. I mean, talk about, you know, hunting and gathering. I was like out just meeting the farms, and I was like, okay. So, and at the time, GMOs weren't even addressed. So we were getting meat that still was being fed GMO because I didn't even know what a GMO was in 2007. And Jeffrey Smith's book didn't even come out till 2009. Until 2009. And it's interesting to me how all the stuff was published in 2009, and that was the year that Mina died. So we had figured all these things out before that, and so now we're effectively eating keto and mostly meat because there's not a lot of vegetables in season. So you just are eating more meat.
And were you missing the vegetables when they were out of season?
Nope.
No.
Because grill is just, it's like I said at the Rogue Food Conference. You don't need to call nobody to the grill. I mean, you're just trying to call people to this blender to get, you know, their green drinks or whatever.
I think we all work so hard to learn to like fruits and vegetables, and then we find out it's not really working, you know. And then you're used to eating them, you know. It's like, oh yeah, I could eat these big salads now, and I put a little bit of lean chicken breast on it, you know. And then, you know,
you can't even grow greens like lettuce greens in North Carolina except for the short fall and spring pockets. Outside of that, there's nothing.
Well,
and
you know, the whole lettuce thing, I think, revolutionized the railroads. They used to ship lettuce from like California and Arizona and stuff like that across the country in these special cars that were full of ice to try and keep them cold. And they would have to race across the country on the trains to get the lettuce because the lettuce spoils so easy, right? For some reason, people like
real lettuce out of our soil is a lot more fragile than the stuff in the grocery store. Like that iceberg and the romaine in the store or whatever, it's like you kick your ass with it. It's so sturdy. And like if you got it from our farms, because you know we have produce growers that I work with, and they their romaine is so fragile, and it's like I can barely get it to you before the end of the day and here, take this home. And you know, you put it in the refrigerator and then it starts to crispen up a bit, but nothing to the degree of the stuff in the store. And like kale, The kale off of our actual produce farms is like soft like a baby's butt. Like it's skin, like it's soft and thin and flimsy, and it's not like and the stuff in the store you could cut somebody with it. Like it's like sharp. And cabbage too. It's like crazy. And so we got used to this local, whatever it was, produce. And the thing was that we never got into salads because we didn't have lettuce long enough to enjoy a salad all the time. And so you get out of a habit of eating a salad, so you just don't eat a salad. And then you would go, and I would mostly eat hearty greens, collards was probably like the big thing because it's the one thing that we can get most of the year. And I would just shred it into ribbons. And then we had a lot more potatoes. I told Emily, I go, we probably ate more potatoes than anything because it's the only one thing that was all the time. Like sweet potatoes here are all of the cold season, and then it's the Redskins, and they are opposite of each other.
The new potato.
Yeah. And then in the summer, you don't want to eat a whole lot of potatoes anyway, just because it's hot.
It's hot.
So you just you eat and we would eat some fruit because, that's when watermelon's not even in season, but for everything, all the fruits are in season for like 6 to 8 weeks, each species. Okay. So it's like 6 to 8 weeks, and then it's a new species. Well, we had blueberry species that ran for like 6 months. And we had peaches that would last about 6 months. But then with this global warming, that started to shrink. And to the degree that for the past 6 years here in North Carolina, I mean, my peach farmers are out of business because the ground is unable to reset because it hasn't been cold long enough, because our summers are getting so long and the winters are so warm. And we end up we never have 6 consecutive weeks of cold anymore in North Carolina. So the ground never resets. Now you got a mosquito problem. Now you got a tick problem. Isn't it interesting? Everybody got these tick bites now. I played outside and laid in the yard and whatever my whole childhood. I had never seen a tick, had never known what a tick looked like in my life, because we have long winters too, and we had a lot of snow. And so those creatures would die off, and when they would come back in the, when it was warm enough, they weren't like so prevalent. And now you have Lyme disease. That started because we don't have a winter anymore that's proper, Otherwise, you would have never seen ticks to get bit by a tick.
It's interesting because my mom's side of the family and my girlfriend's family are from Wisconsin, and it's cold there. In fact, she just got back from there. It was minus 28 degrees Fahrenheit one morning, and they have ticks there.
Really?
Yeah. In fact, we were back there one time, and she got a tick in her hair. It was hanging off the tree, and it got in her hair. And she's like, "Oh, it's just a tick." Threw it away, and then I was like, when we're going to bed, I'm like, "We better do a tick check. We better check each other for ticks." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Well, I don't want to get bit by a tick. Who knows what I'll get." I'd hear stories like my grandma would tell me her brother, they'd go deer hunting. One brother would come home covered in ticks every time, and you'd have to sit there and burn them off or, peel them off the knife or whatever. But the other ticks didn't seem to bother it was like a joke in the family that this one brother, the ticks jumped on him every time. So.
Do you think that in those cold areas that they're not worried about the ticks because the ticks won't last unless they make skin contact?
No, I think that they just haven't had a problem with persistent disease there, so like they're not getting a lot of disease from the ticks. So but
is it because they can't get to their skin? Because look, if it's 28 below, you're dressed.
Yeah, so it'll get to your skin. I mean, because you'll, like when we're there, one time, the time I was thinking it was probably like 40 degrees out, and the ticks are jumping on people. So the mosquitoes are bad too. But they don't seem to they hadn't had, as far as I know, they haven't had the issue with Lyme disease or anything else. So they get bit by a tick, and it's the same to them as being bit by a mosquito. They don't really think of it any different.
Maybe. I'm just curious, like, are those ticks as prevalent all the time? You know what I mean? Like, is it a seasonal thing?
Yeah, I'm sure it's somewhat seasonal, but I mean, you're going to find ticks on wild animals too. So good Lord, there's a lot of deer running around in Wisconsin. They have more deer running around there than we have house cats here in Southern California. You can't drive down any suburban street in California and not see cats walking around. You drive around out there, like especially where my girlfriend's family's from, there's freaking deer everywhere. You turn the corner, there's another one. You're driving by their field. She was telling me that one day she's like, we saw 30 deer in one field. Like we never see that many in one spot. And then 2 days later, she said, we saw over 50 deer in one field. And these people have been living there their whole lives and they've never seen that many deer in one spot before. You usually see like 3 or 4 or 5 at a time, maybe 10. But yeah, they're just everywhere. And they these wild animals have ticks typically. I'm sure the wild boar here have ticks, so they get around. So
Yeah.
the mountain lions here don't have flea collars, so they probably have critters on them as well.
Well, they can tolerate all of that. All I'm saying is that, you're also not inviting those creatures into your living room, not regularly.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, around here too, I just mean that in the winter they would die off. So the volume of ticks and fleas and, mosquitoes and stuff was not, I mean, they had a cycle of dying off and
sure, it's going to thin them out because if they're not attached to a warm animal, they're not going to make it through the winter.
Right. Exactly. So that was the problem here, I think.
Yeah. I think that I heard that too, even in Minnesota, like the mosquitoes got really bad and that was bad enough to really affect the moose. So like you see these moose that are just swarmed with mosquitoes because there's more mosquitoes, and they're just sucking them dry, because they get a warm winter and they just don't kill off enough mosquitoes or something like that. So
yeah, it's really difficult. And then what? Now everybody's trying to spray for that stuff.
mm-hmm.
It's like a horrible cycle. I'm like, can we just have winter? And I feel like if we could just run some cows everywhere, we could remediate the soil, which would restore the carbon.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, you could do that. Even if we were to get just 5% of the consumers to get back on grass-fed beef or just on any beef because they're on grass for a while anyway. The difference between CAFO beef and the regular regenerative beef is, yeah, you can say all day long that they're on grass all the time, but they're not on the same quality of grass that regenerative farms are. They're not managing these pastures to that degree. So it's and like Sean was saying one day, he goes, yeah, those are just bad mamas, those calves. They have bad mamas. No, those mothers would rather put their calves down themselves and kill them than let them be tortured in a situation that they don't want their calves to be in. Because I know plenty of regenerative mama cows that are so loving and affectionate. They're good mamas to their calves. And you don't generally see them stomping them, killing them. They don't need to be separated for them to thrive and be alive. They need to be separated if you have the mom stressed in a situation, because she will try to kill her calf before she allows that calf to be raised in a stressful situation.
Well, I know with wild animals, a lot of the young ones just don't make it, for whatever reason. And sometimes, mama kicks them out of the nest or whatever. And in fact, even places like Wisconsin, the deer that get hit by the cars are usually the yearlings that get kicked out of the nest because mom just had some new babies and they're just not real bright because they've just been following mom around and they haven't learned not to run out in front of trucks, so. Right. And they don't have, I don't think they
CAFO cows and calves.
Right.
And CAFO dairies.
But even in herd animals, you see, the young do get trampled or eaten by particularly males, depends on the species. And even here, I know the wild boar will snag deer, baby deer, freshborn baby deer, and eat it. It's just another meal to them. So, and
survival of the fittest is real.
I've been stalking the same pigs that I've caught bobcat stalking, and then I haven't actually caught a mountain lion on film, but I've seen their tracks. So like in the same little tiny area, a whole bunch of sounders of hogs going through. Then bobcat, I'd never seen a bobcat footprint, and it walked through the camera shot like a freaking ghost. Like you could barely see. You're like, what is that? And then you're like, holy cow, that's a bobcat, and it's not real big. It's only yay big. And then all of a sudden you see this footprint you've never seen before, and it's a mountain lion. And mountain lions are kind of long, so their feet space way out in a weird sort of way. And the first couple times I saw it, I was like, what is that? And then sure enough, you start hearing, oh, somebody's horse got mauled by, it must have been a mountain lion, because nothing else around here could maul a horse like that. So,
Wow.
so yeah, so we're all competing. And so, that's why I think, a lot of young are just not expected to survive, even in herd animals. In
Yeah.
some of the footage you see, the pigs really treating each other poorly. These are wild hogs, and they're just like kicking each other and biting each other and pushing each other away from the food. And so it's not.
Survival.
Yeah.
People want to deny it. Why? I don't know.
So what else is in your book?
Justin, you were going to say something?
Oh, sorry, Justin.
Yeah, I just kind of want to get to, because I'm sure anyone that watches this is going to want to know, how do they find their local rogue farmer? Do we got to go put on ninja outfits and start hopping around, farms and stuff like that? Do we got to go, hey, to the local farmer's market? Are you a rogue farmer? I'm in. I'm not gonna squeal. How do we do it?
I think it would be nice for them to know that you know about rogue food, first of all, and that you're seeking food freedom. I think it would be very important. And I think that it's interesting that you can start at the farmer's market and say, hey, do you know any rogue farmers? Do you know any guys raising some rogue beef? Because a lot of them probably do. And they're probably happy to help connect you, because they're at the market out of necessity for some reason, whatever is happening in their life, like they need to be there for some reason, but they know people. And then, go from there. You can also go to localharvest.org, and you can look at eatwild.com. Although I quit using Eat Wild as a listing for me, because I can't really adjust it or manipulate it or whatever. It's a very dated platform, but you can at least start there and start trying to, you can enter your zip code into these things and like try to find some spaces and call them. And in my book, I have a report card, a livestock report card that I put in there, and you can ask them questions and then find where they're at on the report card. And I even write on there that, like if they're outside and they're on grass and they're at any of these places from A through F, that I would eat it. And if it's below F, that means it's in the store because it meets health code. If it's health code certified then, or approved, then, I won't eat it, because that means it's poison, because they've done something to it. In fact, I have a call from somebody right now that I'm waiting to talk to them in another day or two, that they're being threatened. Because like people like me, I'm being threatened all the time by the USDA and the FDA to shut this down. Like I have my CSA, for the farms that I work with. I created a nonprofit church. I actually formed a 501c3 so that I could talk, because I'm not even allowed to say these things to you. Like I'm not allowed to tell you. And for me to tell you what's happening with the food system, is a litigious act for them to come after me for some reason. Like they'll come up with something. And I mean, I guess like you were saying, Tom, one time, you can sue anybody for anything, or they can come after you for whatever reason. Of course, that's true, but they have to have some type of legal precedent. And, you have to know how to apply that precedent also. And, we do have constitutional rights that nobody knows because they don't think it's important. But I highly recommend that you learn how to enforce your constitutional rights. But for me, as a third party trying to help the farm stuff get to an eater and not be the farmer, the producer, then it's not just a situation where it's a relationship between me and the eater only, right? It's a relationship between me and the eater and the food producer. So all three of us need to be in this together and know that we are fighting for this rogue food, and that we're all taking a risk together. So if we purchase this meat and we leave it sitting out and it spoils, I can't go back and be like, you sold me some bad meat. No, you mishandled it, for one thing. And even if let's just say it was bad, which in my decade of doing this, I have never, ever had a reason to ever feel like, oh, we should recall some meat. Never. How is it possible that for a decade, I've never, ever, I mean, I might have had a steer that didn't taste as good as the other steer, or this one didn't have as much fat as that one, or whatever, because each animal tastes different. If you hunt, you know that every deer you eat is different. And
they can vary just from season or certainly from area. What they eat affects how they taste. Like a bear that's been eating nasty rotten salmon doesn't taste anything like one that's been gulping down blueberries. It's no secret. Or a lot of the farmers are plant crops around their crops for the deer to eat, and they taste a lot better than ones that are just, especially ones that are near swampy areas. Same thing with hogs. They live around swampy areas.
How you caught them, were they stressed? Running deer makes them taste like crap versus being in a deer stand and, them not knowing that you shot them. If you understand that, then, you have to know, like what we're doing with our animals is going to be a little bit more consistent because they know us. When you load them on the trailer, when you do whatever you're doing with them. I mean, ultimately, it would be really nice to be able to go back to where what they used to do is when it was time to take a creature to go process, then you would kill it on the farm and then take the carcass to the processor. That way, that creature didn't have to ride in a vehicle. That's a stressful thing to do, is to put a creature on a ride.
Yeah.
Even if you're just moving them from one place to another, it's a stress on the creature.
Yeah, my dog doesn't even like to ride in the car. So I can imagine a cow has never been in a car or in a trailer, going down the road. Probably isn't going to like it.
They can't stand. They don't feel comfortable.
Sure.
They're stressed out. It's like a little kid on a plane for the first time. I mean, what do you think is supposed to happen? I don't know.
I think they're supposed to throw up on you.
Yeah. And then when they get there, they got to get over that. So their stress hormones are way up. Used to be though that, well, now, whatever, they require all the animals to be taken there. I mean, I am working, by the way, to raise money to be able to create my food church. And what I want to do is use that food church as a demonstration where we can have a demonstration farm and we process the animals on the land, meaning all the cows and everybody. Like have a small abattoir. So White Oak Pasture has their own facility that they have on their property, which, they did because, well, I don't know all the ins and outs of why they did theirs. Okay, so I'm not going to speak on their behalf, but they have it on their property, and they sell to Whole Foods. So they're the only Whole Foods that's 5 on their scale of humane. And
I read a book, I believe it was called The Carnivore's Manifesto. I'm going to pull it up right here and double check that. But the author, he wasn't really a carnivore. He wasn't a meat eater, a pure meat eater like we are. But he was saying that one of the biggest problems was there wasn't enough like small slaughterhouses available to local farmers. Like the cost of transporting their animals was a serious impediment to them being successful and bringing their meat to market. Yeah, it's the Carnivore's Manifesto. I'm trying to look and see if I can.
I talk about it also because what they've done is, and when I say they, I call it.
Have you read that book?
This is Audible.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's by Patrick Martins.
Okay.
The Carnivore Manifesto: Eating Well, Eating Responsibly, and Eating Meat by Patrick Martins with Mike Edson.
Well, what he's saying is true. I mean, the truth is that the institutions that we created, the institutions that we've created, meaning like the government structures that we've created to create efficiency for us, like even university is the efficiency of dispelling information, right? We created these structures to be our servants. We did not create them to be our masters. And they have now become our masters. And now people act like we have to you know, like abide by their rulings. And I'm like, no, hello, remember, we created them. You know, everybody who's all mad saying the government, they work for us. We don't, you know, they're supposed to listen to us or whatever. Well, they're not listening because you don't, you know, you're not standing up. You're not deciding.
Yeah,
Like,
and a lot of politicians are ineffective, and then they leave behind these bureaucracies that essentially create law that nobody votes on. You know, a lot of these bureaucracies exist forever. They're indoctrinated with a culture that most of us don't agree with, and they essentially have the power to make law. You know, so you know,
well,
it's
we
like,
also have the power to rebuke that law, and we also have the power to turn it over. And
yeah,
also we can just sit down or stand up and do that, and no one does. And that's because people are not critically thinking or looking into this or wanting to get involved. If I tell you that I'm doing rogue food, that eliminates a lot of the people. You know, when I'm telling you that I have a source for rogue food, that doesn't attract people to me. I mean, when my website says buyer beware, you know, do your own due diligence, people, you know, automatically are like, what illegal thing are you doing that we don't want to participate in? You know, instead of trying to find out what it is that, you know, they have to do to be able to get this. And let's face it, people don't want to be responsible for anything because it's too easy, you know, for them not to be until you've been sick or experienced something extreme. Then, you know, and everyone's like, yeah, Niti, you know, you're an idealist.
yeah. That's the people who haven't been sick and haven't had to find their own solution, right?
Right. And so, you know, when you're fighting for your child's life, who are they calling? Who are they trying to find right away? And, you know, I'm like, hey, you could just already start to invest in your, I mean, you're willing to invest in health insurance and in 20 other investment strategies, but you're not willing to invest in regenerative meat from somebody who you can put your eyes on, that you can know it's going to be clean, and it's only going to get cleaner because you're supporting them and because you want it, because they're going to produce whatever you want. And if they have somebody to buy it, they're going to do it because they are passionate about it.
Yeah,
And
and I think it's really important that we understand, you know, the whole ecology thing's been hijacked by people who say that cows are destroying the planet, and we know that's not true. We know that the cattle industry can actually be beneficial, and farms can be carbon neutral, and sometimes they are even carbon negative, where they're actually, you know, sequestering more carbon than they're outputting. So, and a lot of the metrics that have been used to skew those numbers are being unearthed as being dishonest, you know. And
oh, wait
so
a minute. You're saying they're making up the science?
I say they grab studies that are
Institutions
poorly
are
done. You know,
to dispense their profiteering,
this is
the ones that
this
make
is
them
the
stand.
thing I enjoy a lot, is just teaching people to read studies, right? Because you learn to read those scientific studies, and the first few are like kind of painful, and then by the time you get around to the 10th one, you're like, I understand this better, you know. And then if anything, you realize people weight the evidence from the studies much too heavily, because you know most of these studies are
Wait a minute.
crap.
They're weighting the evidence to go towards the people who paid them to do the study?
Well, even worse is the step beyond that, when, you know, people publish opinions about these studies, you know, and it just gets passed on and nobody actually reads the study.
It's
Like
an opinion.
I
It's
like
just their
to,
opinion, Tom.
when I started doing videos on books, you know, on nutrition and keto and stuff like that, everybody's like, you got to read the China study. You got to read the China study. So I went through the China study at least twice, maybe 3 times. And it's a long, long book. And by the end of it, I was like, yeah, this is pretty crappy. You know, like this is some pretty thin evidence in here. And everybody talks about this book like it's so revolutionary. And I don't think it holds up to the average person's criticism these days. I mean, the average person is going to read these mouse studies that they're doing. They're like, you got a mouse that's genetically enhanced to get cancer. You're feeding it a crap load of food that's supposed to give it cancer. And then you introduce the most cancer-causing agent known to man. And this is somehow evidence to not eat meat. You know, it's like, what the, you know, the dice are clearly loaded. You know, these mice are going down no matter what, right?
Convoluted. I mean, the things that they're doing and the things, I mean, when people will say, did you look at such and such study? No. Did you just go
Yeah,
outside and put your feet in the dirt? Why don't
yeah.
you go outside Go
Well,
outside and put your
see,
feet in the dirt.
the message to me was that when I went back and I talked to people about this China study book, I realized they hadn't read the book. So
They got it.
a
They found
dozen
it
people,
themselves.
a dozen people told me I needed to read it, and I couldn't find any of them that had read it. They might have read a description of the book. So you've got a book where I don't think the author accurately interprets his own work. And then you've got all these people talking about his book, right? So we're very far removed from the source, right? And until you get to the source, you can't put your critical eye on it. But then
Yeah.
when you, and then of course, Denise, I found out later that Denise Manger did a great job of just tearing this book to pieces over and over again until she was tired of it, right? I could see why she got exhausted, because it was like shooting ducks in a barrel, and it's like, that's only fun for so long. But
Yeah.
that's the problem. And so, like, when you get people to read studies, I had this discussion with somebody the other day. I was like, oh, you believe that protein's bad for you and it's going to ruin your kidneys? Would you like me to send you the studies? And that's usually the end of the discussion. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter if they're vegan or just a Joe Blow off the street. You said, look, man, if you want to talk science, I'll talk science with you, but we're going to talk about studies. We're going to talk about statistics. And that's a problem. You mentioned our constitutional rights. One of our biggest problems in America is people don't understand the Constitution. Just ask somebody what the enumerated powers are. They're like, what? The who?
What are you talking
Yeah.
about?
And then
The Bill of Rights. Where is that?
they don't understand basic statistics, even though we're forced to learn it in school. They don't understand basic science.
They aren't taught all that anymore, I don't think, Tom. I mean, they took logic and reason out. And
I had
they
to
took it
learn
out.
it. I had to learn it after school. I mean, when I was in school and I kind of learned it, I really didn't have any idea how to use it, right? And it wasn't as an adult that I learned to use it, right?
Right.
So, I don't really expect people, and it's easy to get in a political argument. So I just go straight to, like, yeah, people don't understand the Constitution. Why don't you explain it to me? And that's usually the end of the discussion right there, right? Because
Yeah.
when you don't have to spend that much time on the Constitution to understand it. You don't have to spend that much time reading studies to understand studies. And when you look at it and you go, well, this was a tiny, tiny little change that they saw, and it's not really much in the way of evidence, and people blow these things out of proportion, and pretty soon it's somebody talking about somebody else's opinion by somebody who's never read the study, and it's just parroted on and on and on and on. And I think that's why people eat a crappy diet, and I think that's why the vegan agenda, we'll call it the agenda,
Yeah.
like they're on the same page. They're probably not, but that's why that stuff gets so much traction. It's kind of salacious and stuff. The people are telling you what to eat, why not to eat, and how long you're going to live, and how you're going to destroy the planet, and what a bad person you are because you're enslaving animals, and they're all getting
You're so
tortured
right.
all the time.
They're so right. I saw something that they wrote where they said, well, you can't change these animal eaters' minds. And I was like, yeah, when you can't change anybody's mind who feels good. And I mean, the fact is that we keep talking to more and more plant-based people who admit that they never really felt that great. And they did what they thought was right, which is different from feeling good.
And how do you
And
do it without supplementing, especially like your B vitamins? And now that study came out showing that those supplements are linked to higher rates of cancer, right? So
people ask me all the time what the supplements are that we take. And I'm like, we don't take any. What? And I was like, if you're trying to sell me some supplements, then,
I
I got
supplement my meat with salt and smoke and stuff like that,
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Fire.
Niti, what's your favorite cut of meat? How do you cook it? And what are you eating currently?
So I eat all of I eat everything that we have. We have day trip seafood, and we also have regenerative pork and chicken and beef. But what I find is that I'm more satisfied with the beef and the pork, all the four-legged creatures. And I use the chicken and seafood as my, crackers and cheese or something like that. So, I mean, I like to make shrimp and fish and chicken, like for having company, because that's what I put on all the party trays. And then But we're very lucky here locally. I have a local butcher who uses regenerative beef and regenerative pork from people who I know here locally. And they produce salamis and bolognas and hams and, charcuterie. So we get to enjoy all of that, which is really, really something new, meaning like within the past couple of years, and just kind of a dream come true. I also noticed I can't enjoy too much of that because I think it's for the seasonings. Like I can't have like tons of it, but I definitely can enjoy a little bit of it on a platter for us to have like a party or for me to take to an event or something. But I think we all agree that like ribeyes or like a cowboy steak, like a chuck steak, is probably my best if I could just have that only all the time. But I also actually like to take a pack of our ground pork and a pack of our ground beef and mix it together and make chop steaks. So
You're mixing your meats.
I know.
Cross-contamination.
That's so edgy.
I know. I like the extra fat and flavor that comes from the pork that goes with the beef, and I can just put a little bit of salt and maybe I'll put a little garlic pepper on it, but just the salt is fine also. And then I just broil it. It's like that's my fast food. That's my all the time food probably. And then, then I'll take the time. Like actually today I'm going to have some pork chops. So, fortunately I can, like those things agree with me. And a lot of this stuff, this oxalate dumping and stuff, things that people have been talking about, it's so weird to me because it wasn't anything I never would have thought about or experienced. The only thing that I know that we experienced changing our diet the way that we did, because we wouldn't eat wheat basically, was a firm rule that even if we were gonna have something, it was gonna be gluten-free. Like later we had made that decision when we found a little bit more trust. There was a stage where I was like, okay, I think I can have some cassava bread with our eggs. And I had a local gluten-free baker who was baking stuff for the CSA. And so it's a veggie bread. And we were able to make it even with our butternut squash. Like you can roast it and make it. This is talking about way before carnivore-ish. Okay. So like, we gave everything up. It was only local. Then we tried to figure out how to take that local stuff and turn it into things that we liked. And why would I trust almond flour from somewhere, or whatever? If I didn't trust all this other stuff, like why would I trust any of it?
Yeah, and I like to remind people, since you brought up almonds, and I live in California, or Justin and I do, where water is scarce and we grow a lot of almonds. It takes 13 times more water to make a gallon of almond milk than it does a gallon of cow's milk.
And it's straight up omega-6s. And it's not natural. It doesn't honor the laws of nature. And it makes you sick. And then you end up, like, people can talk about the phytic acid and the blah and the blue and the blah. And, they're like, well, I prepare my nuts properly. I do the Western and I do all the other stuff. And I'm like, who in the world ever expected that you were going to take almonds that are pain? Have you ever tried to crack an almond, like, from raw?
Yeah, it's pretty hard shell.
You can't get in there. So how many almonds does it take to get a cup of milk? It's like,
I don't know. They must just pulverize the white part of the meat and then suspend it in water or something, right? I don't know.
What I'm saying is that it is so impossible to do. It would, like, if we were not civilized, if we had no mechanics helping us to do this, then how would you possibly ever be able to do that? You wouldn't. It's all mechanical. It's mechanized. So
I don't know if you've ever seen how they harvest the nuts out of those trees. They drive up with this tractor and it's got this big net that goes around, and then it grabs the tree and it shakes it violently, right? And then the nuts fall down into the net. Yeah. So that's how they harvest it.
You're stressing the tree, and the vegans don't care about that.
Think of how long it would take you to pick all those almonds by hand, and then you're going to turn around and make milk out of them.
And then how many birds get killed? And
Oh
then
yeah, yeah. You got to be killing birds left or squirrels left and right, rabbits left and right. Yeah, for
and
sure.
human beings not matter in any of these things. Like this is the other thing. It's like people don't realize that the produce farmers are institutionally slave. They're enslaved in this. Okay, and so the human rights violations. Don't get me started on the human rights violations on these migrant workers and not even just the migrant workers, even the legal American citizen. First
Yeah.
of all, I want to, any of the employees of these industrialized agricultural operations.
Yeah.
Why does nobody care about them? And I'm not
Well,
talking about the CAFO.
the
I'm talking
central,
about for produce.
the Central Valley, California is really actually very poor. So a lot of, farm workers there that don't make a lot of money. It's seasonal. And even, we grow a lot of avocados here in Southern California. A lot of those avocado groves are just being ripped out because they don't have enough people to pick the avocados. You can't drive up to an avocado tree with a giant net and shake it to get the avocados out. So you need people. And there just aren't enough people to take the job. So a lot of the avocados are going to be coming from overseas now. So
that wall's not going to help the avocado.
well, we have programs for people to come, for migrant workers to come, wall or no wall, people come anyways, legally or illegally. So I know lots of people, I got people in my family that came here illegally. So, and then most of them are legal as far as I know now. So, but we always, in Southern California, it's just part of life, because we're on the border. So.
Yes.
So anyways, you want to tell us a little bit about how people can get in touch with you? Do you hang out in Emily's Center of Brilliance group?
I do. I like to go as much as I can.
Facebook.
Yep. I sometimes get there late because I'm like, oh, it's time.
How else could people get in touch with you? You on Instagram or Facebook or?
So I'm Niti the Pharmacist on Insta.
Spell that out for them.
NITITHE, like Niti the Pharmacist, FARM, like fur farm, ACIST, pharmacist. And clever. I'm Niti the Pharmacist on Facebook. And on Twitter, I had to take the A out, pharmacist, because it wouldn't fit. So I'm Niti the Pharmacist.
Damn Twitter and all their restrictions.
One more digit.
One more digit.
Gosh, I cannot win for losing on Twitter. I have a hard time posting on it directly, so I go through Insta because I'm like, every time it's like too many words. Sorry, guys. I kind of just suck at that part. I'm like,
you're wordy. You're a wordy girl.
I try to not be wordy. I try to condense it.
Economy of words is a discipline. It's tough. It's one of the way I look at it is trying to say exactly what I want to say in as few words as possible. It's not easy, but after a while, it gets to be natural, and it makes everything easier, especially when you're like me and you can't type or spell for your life. The fewer words you have to deal with, the better, And these giant fingers on a phone, tiny little keyboards, it's terrible. Yeah. Everybody goes, how come you type so bad? I'm like, I'm on my phone. It's twice as bad on my phone. So
you're like, do.
Justin, did you have any parting shots for Niti?
No, awesome. Thank you for being here. It's been awesome. We have to do this again. We have to certainly have you back for a part 2 after we've read the book.
Yeah.
We can really delve into the book because it sounds amazing. Definitely going to have to read it now. And please come back. And I'm excited about regenerative bologna. Like that was something that I was like, I can never have bologna. And now it's like, wait, bologna? Yes, like that's happening.
Meat. So you can, when you pressure the meat, then it becomes paste. And then you can shape it in a tube. And it doesn't have to be full of a bunch of crap. It can just be meat.
I distinctly remember asking my grandmother how they made bologna back on the farm because she's a farm girl from Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And she couldn't quite remember all the steps, because it had been a lot of decades since she'd done it. But I was kind of excited. Like someday, I know it sounds ridiculous to be excited about bologna, but I like bologna too,
No, it's really good. And especially when you mix the pork and the beef like that, and then you pressure it, then it becomes a paste. And
I
you
think
have
I
to,
see a business opportunity for me and Justin. We're going to start the Southern California bologna factory.
Yeah. For
oh
sure.
my God, it would be such a good hit.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, that sounds good.
you don't have to put any crap in it. And like they always put sugar in it. Why? It tastes freaking good already. Like I mean, I would say that you definitely need some salt. And I mean, I don't know. I have this thing about like garlic pepper. But
Good.
I'm
We all have a
Indian. They
thing.
have a lot of seasonings, okay? I like lots of flavors. But yeah, I mean, like you could make it with or without maybe, you know. But
How about some smoked bologna?
that
We could
that would
take
be
over the world with technology like that.
that and hard salami. Because you could
Yeah.
sneak it and age it and then boom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's what I want the food church for. But you know it's illegal to do all that.
Mm.
If you make it and you don't put, they're like, well, you didn't put a preservative in it. That'll be for our next conversation. We could just talk about all the reasons why you can't make clean charcuterie because you're not allowed to preserve it without putting all this crap in it. And I'm like, you don't need that at all. So.
Excellent. Yeah, we'll have to do this again. Like Justin said, once we get your book read,
Okay.
get on the same page. I know my friend Jillian Faith started a carnivore group on Facebook called Carnivore Fitness IE, and the whole idea was to help people get together, and find local farmers to get some quality meat and dairy and talk about fitness and gyms and
No,
stuff
I
like
always wanted to like create an app, and I'm like, don't know how to do that. But I would really like to have created an app where we could say that I vetted this farm out, and people could put their zip code in, and then match them with it. So anybody want to help me like figure out an app because I would really love to do that. And I am going to be working on launching my YouTube channel, which is
we
still
will
needs.
have to I can't find my clipboard, but Justin's familiar with all my my pictures of I do these diagrams of what we want our online platform to entail. So
Oh,
we'll throw that in there, throw that in the mix. So
yeah.
but we like I was telling you before we started, I've been trying to keep in touch with more people around the world in other
Yeah.
countries, but also to help people develop something locally where they go and talk to their farmers, make them aware of, resources like maybe your book or Rogue Foods or stuff like that, or the up and coming SoCal bologna factory, so that they, we have resources and we have some sort of online hub where all this information is accessible. So that's kind of our dream.
That's what I want to do too. I was actually working on trying to put that together right now. I know I've talked to you a little bit about that, Tom.
Yeah.
The other thing is that book that I wrote, by the way, should be something for you to promote to regenerative farmers that you meet and say, look, this is a book that, it's to help them know what you know, first of all, and then they should be using it. And anybody who says that they want to come get beef from them, they should just say, here, read this book. And if you still want to do it, come back and see me. Because it will educate them to be able to meet that farmer where they need to be so that they can take the responsibility.
And tell everybody the name of your book again.
It's Farm to Fork Meat Riot.
You don't happen to have one handy, do you?
I know. Like, I'm looking all around me. I have everybody else's books. Hang on. I might be running away too far. Hey, where's the copy of my book?
Good times, huh?
Good times. We're authentic. This is real.
Our love of bologna is true. There we go.
There we go.
All right.
Here it is, guys. I should have just had it right beside me.
And you're thinking about a revised edition and perhaps an audio version?
I am. Thomas is educating me on how to do the audio version.
Yeah.
And so God bless you for that, because I really.
Yeah, if you put it up on Audible, I bet you'll get a tremendous amount of people that want to listen to it. So this is like the perfect time for you.
Well, I did this all self-published, And if y'all can help me sell out of what I have, it'll help me pay for my Audible. And in the meantime, I'm going to do what you said, and I'm going to try to look into that equipment. And you know, honestly, the other part of it is if I'm going to do an audio book, I really wanted to read it myself because I felt like, I mean, I should tell the story.
Well, it's an opportunity for it to expand a little too. I mean, you've had some time for that book to season in your mind and talk to people about it, and then so you can add in little stuff now and you do an audio book, you know.
Yes. Yeah, because there's definitely some of that I would like to do for sure. So I just had to get some strength back to be able to get back into it, to read it.
It's a major undertaking for sure. All right, guys. Well, it's been great. I'd like to extend an invitation to everybody to join us at Autistic Carnivores on Facebook and Center of Brilliance on Facebook. And Justin has All Out Life. Is it All Out Life.carnivore on
Facebook, Minds, and Instagram.
Minds and Instagram. I'll try to put everything in the show notes. And if people would subscribe to my YouTube channel, I greatly appreciate it. And if you leave us a comment, let us know what you think and what you'd like us to talk about next time, maybe. I appreciate everybody joining us. I hope this helps some people out there. Maybe you send the link on to somebody else that it'll help. And until next time, everybody, I hope you feel better. Clicky, clicky, clicky.